Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the latest episode of Musical Musings, airing every Wednesday at 1 p.m. and broadcast to you from Rajamacon University of Technology, Pranikon. This program will come to you in two parts. In the first part, we will introduce an artist and a song to you. We will talk a little bit about the artists, and then we will discuss the main themes of the song. Basically what it's all about, what the song is about. Then we will go ahead and listen to the song, and then in the second half of the program, we will analyze the lyrics. The lyrics are the words to the song, and we're going to focus on anything that might be especially difficult, like difficult vocabulary, slang, or idioms. An idiom is a saying that doesn't mean exactly what the words would make you think it means. So anything like that that's difficult to understand. And then we'll get to the news and the latest updates from the university, as usual. My name is Gary Gray, and I am your host for the Musical Musings program. I'm an American English teacher here at Rajamacon University of Technology, Pranikon. I have been here teaching at the university for almost exactly 8 years, and as of this recording, we are about to begin our new semester. So I'm about to start my 9th year here. Starting next week, I will be beginning my 9th year here at the university. And as an English teacher, I do sometimes like to incorporate music into my classroom. Some people wonder why. Some people think, oh, maybe that's not really so good because it's just fun and we should concentrate on learning grammar and things like that. Actually, I find music to be very helpful. Yes, it is a little bit fun, so it is entertaining. So that does help the students pay attention a little bit more. But also, in music, and you'll see it here today with the song we're going to do today, in music we have we use a lot of sayings that we might use in normal life. So it's somewhat conversational. And the whole point of learning a language is so that you can communicate with someone that speaks that language, right? That's the whole reason. That's the whole point of learning a language. It's not just for fun. You want to communicate. And in normal communication, it's important to know these kind of sayings and slang terms, things like that. Which, if you're just studying grammar, you're not going to learn. Now, grammar can be important, of course. You won't sound very intelligent speaking English if you don't get your verb tenses and things like that right. For example, in a lot of native Asian languages, they don't use articles, a and the. So it's very common for native Asian speakers, when they're learning English, to leave out their articles. You will sound more intelligent. You will sound like you know English better if you remember to include your articles. It's not always easy. We don't always have them in front of a noun. So it's not easy to know when to use an article. But if you can figure it out and master that, you will sound smarter. So yes, it is important that we learn our grammar as well. But I think in some school settings, there is almost too much focus on that. Doing things like conversational English, that's just fun. That's kind of how they look at it at some universities. Not my university. They allow me to do this teaching. in the way that I see fit. And so, yes, I think it is very helpful to learn through music. And that is why I bring you this musical program. And so, as you know, every week I bring you one song by one artist. And for today, we are going to be doing the song Everyday People by Sly and the Family Stone. Okay. So, this was actually not my planned song to do for this week, so I kind of threw this episode together at the last moment. I'm recording this in the morning because our production folks need to actually edit these programs so that they can insert the song into here. So we're not able to do this live. So I'm recording this in the morning. And when I woke up this morning, I learned that the lead singer of Sly and the Family Stone has passed away at the age of 82. And I do like to do a tribute to musicians if I hear that they've passed away. And I usually try to do new musicians, new artists, every week. We have repeated a few. We've done a couple. We've got a few bands we've done more than one of. But I don't believe we've done Sly and the Family Stone before. I actually thought about doing them, but as good as they are, I'm just not really that familiar with them. It's not the music I really grew up with. And they changed their lineup midway through their career. It probably wasn't quite as good after they changed their lineup. And then they broke up when I was still pretty young. So some of these bands that we do, they've been around. They're still around now. So they've been around 30, 40, 50 years. These guys were not around that long, so I did not really grow up with them. I'm certainly familiar with a few of their songs, but it was a little hard to do. Also, probably their most famous song, which is the one we're going to do today, Everyday People. Although they do have another song that's probably almost equally as famous. But this song is very short. It's only about 2.5 minutes long. So I never really wanted to do Sly and the Family Stone. But even though I said I'm not really into this group that much, they are really good. And their message, especially in this song that we're going to do today, is also a really good message. So, with the passing of their lead singer, we're going to do Everyday People by Sly and the Family Stone. Okay, so, again, the name is Sly and the Family Stone, and Sly is a nickname for their lead singer. His last name is Stone. His name is Sylvester Stone. Not Sylvester Stallone, that's the guy from Rocky. Nope. Sylvester Stone is his name. And it says the Family Stone because it means it's with his family. This includes one of his brothers and one of his sisters. Now, there were 3 other band members, and I believe 2 of them were white, although, again, they changed their lineup in 1975, so I'm not sure how that shuffled things. I believe their original lineup, I want to say, had 2 white members in it. You may say, well, who cares? So, Sly and his family, they were black. So you may say, who cares? So you have black and white people in the same band together. Yes, but this band is from a long time ago. They're from 1966. That's when they formed, at least. They're from 1966. And in the 1960s in America, there was a lot of racial tension. In other words, a lot of white people were against a lot of black people and people of other colors getting a lot of rights, getting a lot of equal rights. And there was even interracial fighting. And what I mean by that is there were obviously not going to be all the white people who were against that. I mean, that's a bad thing, right? To be against racial equality. And there are plenty of good white people. So lots of white people were in favor of it as well. So a lot of whites were fighting with whites as well over this issue. So there was just a lot of fighting over racial issues in America at the time. Also, different styles of music had really been associated with different types of races, with different races, which of course also isn't really very good. That's kind of a bad thing too. I always hate it when people of one race say, "Oh, well, this other race stole their music," or whatever. If this other race is performing that other music, it's because they like it. That should be a good thing. The popularity of your music is spreading to other races, to other cultures, to other types of people. That's a wonderful thing. That shouldn't be something that you hate. But unfortunately, that's the way it was back then. And so, like, only black people would perform this type of music. And only white people would perform this type of music. And you might get a few that would cross over, but they'd usually either be singing by themselves or maybe with a brother or sister. Like, I can think of a few who kind of crossed over. I mean, even Elvis Presley, a lot of people think that his sound was more of a kind of black sound, the type of music he sang and the way he sang. But again, he sang by himself. So not in a band. So, I say all that to point out that this was actually one of the first integrated bands. That means people of different racial colors, people of different races, that was performing, at least in America. And America being one of the more racially diverse places in the world, probably in the world. Now, America sometimes is worse on racial issues, so maybe there were some groups in maybe Britain that came before this. But in America, which is where Sly and the Family Stone are from, this was one of the first integrated bands. Okay, so they are from, I should mention, they are from San Francisco. I'm not sure if they were born there. I did not look that up in my notes. But I know the band formed there, and since it's got a brother and sister in it as well, I presume they were living there at the time, the whole family. So I don't know if they were born in San Francisco, but they were in San Francisco when the band formed. So it was formed in San Francisco in 1966. As I mentioned before, they kind of changed their lineup in 1975 and broke up in 1983. The reasons are unfortunate. Apparently there was a lot of drug use in the band, and so things went bad. Back in those times, 1960s, 1970s, there did tend to be a lot of drug use in the musical culture. I say unfortunately because there were a lot of bad consequences. Some people actually think it's a good thing because some of the drugs made them more creative. I suppose that's possible, but too many good artists ended up dying, or bands broke up like these guys because of that. So, no, I generally don't think it was a good thing, no. So they broke up in 1983. And then Sly basically, he tried to do some stuff on his own, but he basically retired in 1987. So again, Sly, that's Sylvester Stone. He was the lead singer. And the reason we're doing this show is because he just passed away. Now, you may be watching this on YouTube sometime months, years, who knows, after we record this. So just for your information, he died on June 9th. It was the 10th here that I heard about it in the morning. But America is about 12 hours behind us. So he died on June, so I believe it was still June 9th when he passed away. So he died on June 9th of 2025. And he was born in 1943. He'd already had his birthday this year, so he was 82 years old. Now, as far as the genre of music this group plays, they're considered one of the first funk bands. Not the first. Most people credit James Brown with that, but Sly and the Family Stone is considered to be right up there. Now, what is funk? Funk is kind of a combination of soul and rock and a little bit of like psychedelic music. That's kind of like this crazy sound. But if you listen to them, you're also going to hear a little bit of disco in there. You'll hear a little bit of pop in there. The song we're doing today, Everyday People, is probably a little bit more towards the pop side, which is probably one of the reasons why it did so well. Now, I tend not to be a big fan of pop songs, but that's more modern pop. This song is fine. I like this song. This is a good song. But this is probably a little bit more pop than funk. There's definitely still some funk in there. You'll hear it when you listen to the song, like some soul and some rock in there. So this is kind of so funk is kind of like this combination of genres, which, when I talk about genres on this show, I always talk about how we probably shouldn't even talk about genres, but I have to because everyone asks, oh, well, what type of music do they play? What genre of music? What style of music? Because there's so much crossover. Most artists don't just play one type of music. They mix it, or they do multiple types. And that's great. That's the way it should be. It's music. It's creative. You do your own thing. That's the whole point. That's why music continues to go on and on and on and on and on, because there are an endless number of combinations you can come up with. So that's why we still have music, and we have always had music, and we will always have music, because you can do an unlimited number of things with it. So that's why I don't really like to talk about genres. And when we do, this is kind of a perfect one as far as I'm concerned, because even though, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of Sly and the Family Stone, I just say this genre in general is perfect because it puts together a lot of stuff, puts together a lot of other genres. Okay, so that's mainly what they're considered, is this funk genre. But as I said, they do some other stuff too, including today's song "Everyday People," which is more pop. So let's get to talking about the song a little bit. "Everyday People." It's a simple song. It's a short song, and it has a very good message, especially today, these days, what's going on in the world, and especially if you follow like international news. If you see what's going on in America, it's very divided, and some of those divisions are racially related. For example, there's a big, right now, even as I do this recording, there are big protests in Los Angeles about immigration. Now, immigration technically is not necessarily about race, but you can see how it kind of is. Most of the people that immigrate into America are not white, and white people, although they're becoming less and less the majority in America, are still the majority. People like me, we're still the majority in America. And most people that come to America aren't white. It's not entirely true. There are some people that are white that go there, for sure. Some Europeans move there. After the war started in Ukraine, some Ukrainians seeking refuge went to America. They're white people. So we have plenty of white people. But most of the immigrants to America are either Hispanic, coming from like Mexico or Central America or South America, or they're Asian, coming from Central Asia like India, or coming from Eastern Asia like China. Of course, some people from Thailand go there too. In fact, I have some students of mine that I taught that are living in America now. So most people that go to America are of a different race than the majority. So immigration's definitely tied into race. And this song is about unity. It's about people coming together. It's about unity and peace. And the focus is mostly on race, but not entirely. Not entirely. There are some lines in the song that talk about, you know, people that maybe look different just because their hairstyle's different. Like men with long hair used to be seen as bad in America. Or maybe the difference between rich and poor people. Or maybe between gay people and straight people. There are lines about that in this song as well. So it's just really about everyone kind of coming together in unity. So it's a really nice song. It's a really nice song. And the song came out in 1968. Well, it was written in 1968. It actually came out in 1969 on their very first album, Stand. And it was very popular in America. Got to number 1 in America. And it stayed there for many weeks. I will point out that this is yet another group that we've talked about where their best song ever was on their first album. We have seen that a lot. I've mentioned that many times. Now, over the past few months of doing this program, we've seen it a little less. And that may be partly because of the types of bands we were doing. We did a long stretch where we did one-hit wonder bands and things like that. But we've seen that a lot of times an artist's best song, at least most popular song. Some people may disagree on what their best song is, but their most popular song a lot of times comes out on their first album. And that really confused me the first time I noticed that. What I think it's related to is creativity. Once that song gets really popular, then their record label, the people the artists combine with to produce their albums, that record label wants more and more and more and more and more albums because they want to sell more so they can make more money. And so then that causes the artist to try to rush their music to produce more music. And so maybe it's not as good because they're just trying to produce music more and more and more and more and more. And so it's not as good quality. That's my theory. I don't really know. I never even really noticed this effect until I started doing this program. We've now been doing this program for over 2 years. And so it's definitely something I've noticed, that probably at least half of the artists we've looked at, their best or second best song is on their first or second album. It's very early in their career. So, that is also true for Sly and the Family Stone. Okay, so let's get to the song. As always, for those of you who are joining via YouTube, we cannot embed the video due to copyright issues, so you will see a link in the upper right corner. Please click on that link to go to the video for the song. Then once the song is over, you can click back here to listen to the second half of our program. Anyone else who may be listening by streaming or radio, you should be able to listen just fine. All right, let's get to the song.
Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. So that's Everyday People by Sly and the Family Stone. And once again, that's a song about unity. Let's just get right to the lyrics here. It's pretty simple, pretty easy to understand. And a lot of times we have these songs where some of the lyrics are hard to understand what they actually mean. This one, you might see a few like that, and I think it's because they're just trying to play around with the words. But mostly, it's quite easy to understand. And I think that's on purpose, because there's a message to the song about peace and unity. So they don't want anyone to miss the message. So they make the lyrics very clear. Okay, so let's get to those lyrics. We start out, sometimes I'm right and I can be wrong. My own beliefs are in my song. The butcher, the banker, the drummer, and then makes no difference what group I'm in. I am everyday people. Okay? So that's like the first half of verse 1, the way they break it up. Technically, you could say that is verse 1. The way this is broken up on the line, it says there's 3 verses. Arguably, there's 4, because verse 2 and verse 3 are just as long as what we just read. But what I'm telling you is this is half of verse 1, so we get a whole other section coming for verse 1. Depends how you break out the song. I would say there's 4 verses, and that was just verse 1. So very short verses. I told you it's a pretty short song. Okay, so sometimes I'm right and I can be wrong. Pretty easy to understand, right? My own beliefs are in my song. So he's just saying, you know what? Just a normal person. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. But I'm going to tell you what I believe. My beliefs are in my song. I'm going to tell you what I believe. Butcher, banker, drummer, and then makes no difference what group I'm in. So here, we're not talking about race, but we're just talking about like your occupation. Because sometimes people will look down badly on someone's occupation. Like here in Thailand, we maybe get a lot of migrants that work on construction, for example. So maybe some people look at construction workers badly. You shouldn't. They're just trying to make money so they can have a better life for themselves and their family. Same thing everyone else is trying to do. So we're all the same. That's basically what he's saying. It doesn't matter what your job is. The butcher, that's someone that cuts meat. That's kind of viewed as a low quality job. The banker, that's like a high quality job, right? The butcher, the banker, the drummer, that's kind of very different. That's more art. Makes no difference what group I'm in. Okay? And then he says, I'm everyday people. What they mean by everyday people is normal people. Like someone you would meet every day. Like someone, just normal person walking down the street. He just means to say that he's just an average, normal person. Okay? The next verse, which again, as I said, the way some people break it down, it's part of the first verse. I would say it's the next verse. There's a blue one who can't accept the green one. For living with a fat one, trying to be a skinny one. Different folks, different strokes for different folks. And so on, and so on, and Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Scooby-Dooby-Dooby. Sorry, Scooby-Dooby-Doo is the cartoon character. They say Scooby-Dooby-Dooby in the song. That last line, Scooby-Dooby-Dooby, doesn't mean anything. And they're just saying and so on and so on. In other words, there's all these differences. So the blue one who can't accept the green one, obviously no one is blue or green, but that is a reference to race because we're talking about different colored people. And I think he purposefully chose 2 colors that don't actually exist. Because if you did, then you would maybe making that blue one, if you made that the white one, you'd be making them sound bad because they're the ones that can't accept the other one. And he's not trying, and he doesn't want to make anyone sound bad. He's trying to work for unity. So he picks 2 colors that nobody is, blue and green. But yes, that is almost certainly about race. But then he talks about being fat or skinny. For living with a fat one, trying to be a skinny one. Okay, so this is about being fat, trying to be skinny, and then different strokes for different folks. Now, this could refer to anything, really. But generally, this is going to be referring to something that you choose. What this saying means, different strokes for different folks, It means different people like different things. So this is going to be about probably something like religion. Like you choose your religion. Maybe you don't feel like you do because that's how you were brought up. Your parents are that religion. Most people learn their religion when they're kids. But still, it is a choice. You could change it if you wanted to. So that would be things like religion. And back at this time in the 1960s, society really felt that being gay or straight was a choice. Of course, we know now that no, that's not true. But back then, people really felt that way. So that would also be included here. So this would be about things like religion, being gay or straight, or even just liking different things. Some people might like one kind of music while other people like another kind of music. And that really gets people upset, especially in America back around this time. Oh, the older adults would be so angry at the music that the young kids were listening to. They thought it was terrible. So it could be as simple as that. Could be about the music. Okay. So basically this is just talking about all kinds of differences. And then we get to then we get to another line where it says, "Ooh, Shasha, we gotta live together." So in other words, it's about unity. We went through all of those differences, and now he says, we gotta live together. Okay? So we continue on to verse 2 or 3, whatever you want to call it. The next verse. "I am no better, and neither are you. We are the same, whatever we do. You love me, you hate me, you know me, and then you can't figure out the bag I'm in." Okay, so we do have one line there that's a little confusing. You can't figure out the bag I'm in. So what does he mean by that? Okay. Well, first let's go to the beginning. I'm no better, and neither are you. Okay, that's easy enough, right? We are the same, whatever we do. Again, easy enough, right? He's saying everybody is the same. And I understand why we don't think everyone's the same. That person's a different race. That person's a different age. That person's got a different job. But what he's saying is we're all still people. We all still have feelings. We're all, as I mentioned with the construction workers, we're all still trying to strive for the same thing. You want to have enough money so that you can live reasonably and help your family have a nice life. Help yourself have a nice life. That's what we're all trying to work for, right? So we're all the same. We are the same, whatever we do. You love me, you hate me, you know me, and then you can't figure out the bag I'm in. So this is the one line where I'm not exactly sure what he means about being what bag he's in. But I think it's about not understanding someone, which is again why we need to be more open-minded. You don't know what that person's going through. You love me, you hate me, you know me, and then after he knows him, then he can't figure out what bag he's in. So in other words, once he gets to know him, he's not really sure anymore. He's confused. And it's because you don't necessarily understand everything that someone is going through. We need to be more understanding. And that helps create unity. Because at least you can then get along with that person. Even maybe you still don't agree with them. Because you didn't really understand them, you then maybe will try to understand them. So you can then see their point of view. You can see where they're coming from. So I think that's kind of what that's about. But again, that line is the one line that's a little bit confusing. You can't figure out the bag I'm in. Not entirely sure of that line. But I think it's that he doesn't understand him. Okay? I am everyday people. Okay, so we get that line again. And then we get the next verse. There is a long hair that doesn't like the short hair. for being such a rich one that will not help the poor one. Different strokes for different folks, and so on, and Scooby-Dooby-Dooby. Okay, there's a long hair that doesn't like the short hair. Okay, so again, this gets back to people having different length hair. That was a big deal in America back then. Even now, it still kind of is. There are some very proper type people who the men will always have short hair, and they still don't like it when men go around with long hair, although it's not that big of a deal anymore. Most people don't care. But it used to be a big deal back in the 1960s when this song came out. And then why does the one with the long hair not like the one with the short hair? Because he's rich and won't help the poor. Well, yeah, the one with the short hair is probably going to be more the businessman. So the one with the long hair is going to be kind of what we would call back then in the 1960s a hippie. So that's probably someone who's really into music, maybe into some drugs, and so doesn't work very, very much. There's a lot of good stuff about the hippies, but that side of them, yeah. So they probably don't have a lot of money. Most hippies don't have a lot of money because they weren't working a lot. And they didn't go to university and get a better education and things like that. But the rich guy also isn't helping the poor guy out. You still should do that. Most rich people that I know of, and because of the job I had back in America, I know a lot of them, don't work that much harder than a poor person who's working. In fact, sometimes the poor person has that like really more labor-intensive, harder job. So sometimes the poor person works even more. So a lot of people that like to defend rich people are like, "Wow, why are you against people getting rich? They're successful. That's a good thing. You shouldn't be against someone being successful." No one's really against someone being successful. The problem is that person didn't work any harder than the other person who doesn't have the same amount of money. Now, I'm not saying they should all have the same amount of money, because that depends on maybe doing something smart. Maybe this person that's really successful came up with a great idea. Who knows? So nobody's saying that that everyone should be even. Well, some people do say that, and in most countries where they try that, it doesn't work out very well. But it is reasonable that people that have a lot of money should help out people that don't. And that's why the long hair doesn't like the short hair in the lyrics here, because the rich one is not helping out the poor one. The short hair is more likely to be the rich one, and he's not helping out the poor one. And then we get the different strokes for different folks line again. We get the same thing. And then we go back to we got to live together. All right, now we get the last line, the last verse of the song. There's a yellow one that won't accept the black one. Okay, here we are. Here he does actually talk about race using colors that we have. That's a little dangerous. I'm surprised he does that. We generally think of yellow as being Asian. I don't know why. That's not what color they are. Then again, most black people are not black either. They're mostly brown. Whatever. Those are the colors we use. So there's a yellow one that won't accept the black one. That won't accept the red one. That won't accept the white one. So I think what he's trying to do here, since he's using actual real colors here, he's trying to use pretty much all of them. The only one he leaves out is brown, because we generally consider Hispanic people and some Middle Eastern people to be brown. And we don't mention that one. We have the yellow one, the black one, the red one, and the white one. And when he's talking about red one, Native Americans in America are called red. Again, they're not red. In fact, if you go way, 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 way back, thousands and thousands and thousands of years, those people came from Asia. That's why they have some Asian features. They've been in America so long that through this slow evolution process, they don't look exactly like Asians anymore. But if you look at Native Americans, you'll see some features that resemble Asians. That's because that's where they came from. They came from China across the across the land bridge from to Alaska and into North America. But anyway, they're called red. So these are all colors we have. Yellow, that's Asian. Black, that's going to be like people from African descent. Red, that's the Native Americans. And white, that's European people like me. Okay, different folks for different strokes. And we get the same, and we end with the same, and it ends with I am everyday people. So again, this is all about unity. And he tries to mention all kinds of differences here. He talks about differences in occupation. He talks about differences in race. He talks about differences with fat and skinny people. He talks about differences with rich people and poor people, long hair and short hair. And then when he's saying different strokes for different folks, those are going to be things you choose. So that's going to be things like your religion, things like your sexuality, which of course you don't choose, but back when this song was written, it was widely believed that you did. So that's what this is all about. Okay, so that is Everyday People by Sly and the Family Stone. Now, I like to close off by mentioning some other songs by the artist that you may want to listen to. Probably their two other most popular songs are Dance to the Music and Family Affair. I think Everyday People is probably their most famous, although Dance to the Music was quite famous. But I think Everyday People was a little more. So Dance to the Music and Family Affair, along with today's song, Everyday People. But they do have a lot of other good songs, just maybe a little less popular, like Hot Fun in the Summertime, Thank You, and Higher. Those are three other songs you may want to listen to. So that is Sly and the Family Stone. And rest in peace to Sylvester Stone, who passed away the day before we are recording this episode. So rest in peace, Sylvester Sly. Thank you for joining us for today's Musical Musings program. Please stay with us and tune back in next week for another great song. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.